What's good, what's good, what's good? It's your boy Micah back at it again with another motherfucking video. And today we're going to talk about necromancy, as always. But I'm going to give you just some different revelation and insights specifically on how necromancy affects the mind and the things you can do to counterbalance some of the negative effects it can bring you. And also how to use necromancy to do different things like mind reading, telepathy, fucking psionics, that kind of thing. So without further ado, we're going to begin by talking about a specific rune called Manaz or Manaz. In general, we know that the runes deal with cosmic embodiments of different aspects of power. That Odin fucking, you know what I'm saying, did his whole hang 9 days upon the tree, and he had the vision of it, and he got the runes, right? So Manaz is the rune dealing with mankind. This deals with the mind, the intellectual aspect of the mind, and the means of thinking, intelligent thought, communication, etc. In necromancy, if you pair this with, like, let's say the Awaz rune, the rune dealing with death, the dead, etc., it comes down to not just summoning the dead or working with death essence for the sake of hexing people, but for the sake of delving into the secrets and the wisdom and the minds of the dead, because that's another aspect of them that you're working with when you call them up, when you're working with the various spirits and shit, you feel me? When you start working with the dead on a much deeper level, besides just, you know, cursing MFs and all other kind of stuff, you start diving into the more divinatory, mystical aspect of it, where you start penetrating their secrets, their thoughts, their minds, etc., how they think. And this is how you can learn the secrets of the dead, through mental or psionic probing, that kind of thing. You can also do this with other humans as well, to learn any kind of secret information they might have, or to learn their deepest, darkest secrets so you can use it against them. You feel me? So what you would do for this is you would take, and this is just an example, you can tweak this however the fuck you want to. This is just the way I would go about doing it. You take a skull. It can be a model skull, or if you got the bread for it, you know, it can be an actual fucking human skull or a piece of it. You take that, you mix your blood with ritual ink. Take that and you paint the Manaz rune on the fucking skull, the forehead of it, because we're talking about the third eye, the mind, intelligence here. When you do that, you can simply take the skull and focus on your target and start receiving an inflow of information. This is somewhat similar to like necromantic divination, but the difference is you're using this in a more active manner to really go through their mind and their subconscious, almost like that fucking movie Inception, so to speak. And through this, not only can you learn their secrets, but you can also implant thoughts, ideas, concepts, etc. into their subconscious that will turn out to really dictate their whole life and whatnot. Their vision, their sense of purpose, all that other kind of thing. So this shit gets really, really, really fucking deep here. In terms of, again, the Manaz rune, it doesn't just deal with intelligence and the way you think or way the collective thinks. It deals with the negative aspects of intelligence as well. Pride, arrogance due to thinking that you know every fucking thing. It comes along with not being able to handle certain kinds of knowledge. I think I talked about this in the other video I just did about how in the SCP universe there are things called info hazards. And these info hazards are simply things that normal human minds do not have the strength to handle. And when they perceive this information, it causes a variety of psychosomatic effects. It's the same concept with necromancy. Please do not think that your spirit will let you perceive something that you know damn well you're not ready to perceive, and think you're just going to get away with it. Because the most powerful weapon is knowledge. So let's put this in the context of a death hex, right? You can either death hex somebody, cause necrosis or whatever, or you can put a curse on them to bring a sort of cosmic knowledge, so to speak, very similar to like the Necronomicon, how H.P. Lovecraft, when he perceived these entities, he basically lost his fucking mind just by the very perception of them in his reality. It's the same exact kind of curse you can place on the target. Now, you have to be very careful with this because you don't know necessarily their strength of mind. It could be a muggle, but they could have a very high, I don't want to say IQ, but a very high mental capability. They have a very strong mental body to withstand a lot of this shit. And they might just brush it off as, oh, that's some crazy shit. You know, maybe I was tripping off some weed last night. Or it will actually break their minds, leaving their astral body and their spirit open, because they're all connected, for destruction. Now, concerning motherfucking the negative effects of necromancy, given that you're working with death and death essence, mentally your sanity is going to start deteriorating. You're going to start doing more and more crazy shit in order to attain the power you desire. That's normal. It's expected, especially if you're already deep into like the LHP and you really don't give a shit, like you got nothing to lose. All of this is not going to really bother you. But your way of thinking, the way your mental body processes information is going to change drastically. Some of these signs could be cognitive in the sense of you're not as sharp as you used to be. Maybe you could computate math problems in a damn near instant. But now that you're working with the dead, you start to find that ability is starting to deteriorate and everything. So what you do, in addition to doing mundane, you know what I'm saying, shit to keep your skills up, is you refresh and you feed your mental body. You could do this through vampirism, but it's a very different kind of vampirism. Not where you're taking the person's life essence, so to speak, but where you're taking their mental essence, their mental energy, that substance that gives them the ability to think, gives them the ability to computate shit, all the other kind of stuff. On that note, if you read the works of C.W. Leadbeater, if I'm not mistaken, he was part of the whole Blavatsky group and all the other crap, theosophy. You'll find that he states that the astral body not only has chakras, or the physical body not only has chakras, but the mind, the mental body also has chakras as well. And you can start perceiving these and working with them to get that flow of energy to open up, which not only increases your psionic ability, but it increases the efficiency of how your mind works and processes information, which in turn plays a big part in psychic work, talking with spirits, communicating with them, expanding your ability to receive ideas, potentially creative or destructive ideas from entities. This also will strengthen your ability to perceive various forms of information without your mind breaking down, which is very fucking important. Now, when you're working with the dead, you're working with death gods and, you know what I'm saying, doing your whole cemetery shit and all that, you'll find that you'll have, I don't want to say phantom pains, but it's unnatural pains that appear like they're body-centric, like they originate from the body. But the actual fact of the matter and the reality is it's a mind thing, because the mind and body are connected, right? So you're going to feel parts of your mental body in pain that will then manifest itself in the physical body. To give you a little brief, almost like a diagram here, the mental body and the astral body is shaped oftentimes just like the physical body. That's why you can do some shit in the astral and fucking, let's say you break your arm in the astral. Next thing you know, your arm is hurting in the physical. You feel me? That kind of thing is that process of manifestation. But the difference is, with the mental body and the mental plane, things happen at a much quicker rate than they do on the astral and physical. Because you're dealing with thought. You're dealing with information, ideas, and concepts. And This is why they call it psychological or mental warfare, because it happens before you're able to perceive it consciously. The way death essence manifests on the mental plane is through thoughts of destruction, deathly destructive mindsets. You find your sanity deteriorating. You find your ability to cognate deteriorating. You start to lose how can I put it, a sense, not of identity, but you start to lose a sense of independent or intelligent thought if you don't have a resonance with death essence. That's the key. And it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning about focus and developing a mental attunement and a physical attunement to this kind of thing. Because when you have that, death essence will actually do the reverse. Your sanity will increase. You'll have less of a tolerance for human stupidity or from stupidity coming from various entities. You'll be able to cognate better, think better. Your mental body will be in a state of quietude and stillness, very similar to how monks meditate and they're always in that quiet frame of mind. It's the same thing, because if you look past all the rotting and the necrosis and all that kind of shit, the essence of death is stillness, nothingness, quietude, and clarity. And you'll have that around your mental body to enhance your thoughts, your actions, your psionics, all that other good shit. Now, to put a pin in that for a second and kind of delve into psionics, working with the mind, strengthening the mental body in order to affect change just by thought alone. There's many different ways you can go about doing it. You know, you got fucking in the Measurian Cabal, you got the Void Psionics, you got other forms of psionics that's out there that you can work with. And this is the key to really understanding it, regardless of the system. Psionics is not just about the mind, it's about energy. Because you're using your mind to manipulate energy, because your mind is made up of energy. I'm going to say that again. Psionics is not just about the mind, it's about energy. Because you're using your mind to manipulate energy, because the mind is made up of energy. That's why it can influence these things and cause physical effects. You see this sometimes with, like, you know, the law of attraction. You focus your thoughts, you generate positive emotion about it, you cause a chain reaction of events that brings to you what you desire. Pretty similar to how magic works, don't you think? So, when you're working with your psionics, some of the most basic shit you can do is simply process energy in a controlled fashion through your mental body, through your mind. This is going to manifest itself in having quicker incoming thoughts. You'll feel like your mind is racing, somewhat similar to anxiety, but without the emotional component to it. Through this, you can learn how to control your mind, how to control your thoughts before they become words, and how to dictate what's going to happen in your environment and in your life with this. You get into some really deep fucking gnosis when you go into psionics. Like, for example, what I just said about controlling your thoughts before they materialize into words. You start to, that binding around the throat chakra that binds you to English language or whatever your native language is, it starts to break. So you can hear somebody speaking in another language and receive bits and pieces of info about what they're saying. You feel me? That can come in handy a lot for, you know, let's say you're at a family reunion, you got a whole bunch of Panamanians speaking Spanish, and in your gut, you know they're really talking about you, but you don't know what the fuck they're saying. You'll start to hear bits and pieces that translate without your input into your mind. Among other things, you start differentiating between your own ego, that's giving you ideas and spirit communication, and what the spirit is actually saying. That's very fucking important for correctly divining the secrets of the dead and whatnot. It gets very strange, so to speak, when you start doing that. Not just because of the initial confusion, you know, trying to differentiate between your own mind and the mind of the entity, but you'll know it's real because you'll start receiving information that you could not have come up with on your own. Period. That's like the number one sign. And this requires you to know your own intellectual and mental capacity, to know what you are capable of thinking of and what you're not capable of thinking of. And when you find out what you're not capable of thinking of, you can use that as the baseline for judging between real spirit communication and fake spirit communication, i.e., an entity trying to deceive you or tell you what you already know. Or maybe it's your own subconscious chiming in. You feel me? And that's not necessarily a bad thing if your own subconscious chimes in. But it can be a annoyance, a mental annoyance when you're trying to communicate on an important matter with an entity. Especially when you're, working with the dead and all that good shit. Now, if we want to combine necromancy and psionics into a curse, this is what that could look like, because the mind and body are connected. Please keep that in mind. There is a way to hex a person to where their own mind and their own subconscious starts attacking them. Very similar to the physical manifestation of AIDS, autoimmune disease syndrome, some shit like that. But you get what the hell I'm saying. It functions very similar to that, and you can do this through not necessarily creating like mental viruses and shit, but manipulating the death essence to where the mind recognizes the body as a parasite, so to speak. There's a very fucking deep concept in that too. I'll explain that in a minute. But you could do it that way, or you can twist their sanity. You can start doing, shit like insanity spells, fucking with their mind, all the other kind of shit. I do not recommend you try that on an experienced magician, because they're probably going to realize their mind isn't working as it normally does day to day, and they're going to be able to easily trace that to see where it's coming from. If you try it on like a muggle or something, yeah, you're going to see some pretty powerful effects. You can also use this for like psychic interrogation, mind reading, mental probing, that kind of thing. If you want to take it to fucking Leonardo DiCaprio, Inception levels, then you can come up with a concept to place into someone's subconscious that will produce a false sense of vision, purpose, and calling, and they will slowly but surely completely take a 180-degree course in their life because of what they think and what they feel is the right thing to do, which in reality is not the right thing to do at all. This kind of combines a little bit of astral projection with necromancy, with psionics. You project into their subconscious, and you work with the symbolism there, because the mental plane deals in symbolism. It is the language of the mental plane, the language of the mind. And if you want to manipulate somebody, you have to post the right symbol there that's not already there in their subconscious and in their unconscious mind. Now, this kind of goes into things like shadow work and C.G. Jung type fucking psychology. So we're going to talk about that just a bit. The one thing I want you to realize is that the shadow is not a mere concept. The human shadow is not just a repository for unresolved bullshit. The human shadow is an actual entity that is attached to us as we incarnate. It represents our dark side. It represents the fucking powers of darkness, shadowmancy, the different ways of using the mind, tactical thinking, etc. It is a being in and of its own right that is attached to you. It's like your other half, your double, so to speak. And your mind also has a shadow side to it as well. This is where things like dark thoughts or murderous intent comes from. It's that symbolism, that information make an appearance into the conscious mind for you to do something with it, to either accept it or reject it, take action on it, or dismiss it. Now, when you work with necromancy and you start working with various types of information, Your shadow is very responsive to the perceptions in your environment. This connects with your emotion, and it produces whatever emotional response you feel. This connects to death essence in a sense, like a large amount of your necromantic attunement is held within the shadow body. If you allow yourself to perceive something that destabilizes you and causes your shadow to become destabilized, then you can have a Dorian Gray situation to where you fucking rot yourself out or you end up killing yourself, a form of insanity. Let me explain. If you've seen the movie Dorian Gray, you know what happened. This guy painted the fucking picture, brought him immortality. He started being cruel, being dicks to people. All this information started appearing in his mind about what he had become. His mental body could not cope with it. Therefore, it destabilized his shadow and motivated him to kill himself by, of course, setting shit on fire and fucking stabbing the picture, right? The lesson here is emotional control. And even going beyond emotional control, the lesson is perceptual control. Because he could have perceived that same realization that he was basically a piece of shit, being cruel to people, and he could have used that information to reform himself and thus stay alive even further. You feel me? His shadow wouldn't have been destabilized and all that death essence wouldn't have been released to translate into the physical of him stabbing the picture and thus killing himself. You see how this works? Like, it's very complex, but it's really simple at the same time. There are so many different connections here, and it all deals with perception, the third eye. How do you react to what you perceive? How does your mental body process the things you perceive in your environment? And how do you deal with that as a necromancer? Because action is everything. It can either save you on this path or it can destroy you on this path. Now, that's not saying you can't get angry, you can't get pissed, you can't be happy, you can't do this, that, or the other. It's just a matter of control yourself, you know? Now, when you start getting really deep into necromancy, like you start making charms for yourself to bolster your death hexes, to bolster your attunement to death essence, to enhance your mind, your body, and your spirit, to withstand those fucking trials and shit, when you start working on pain control and all that and getting your spirit up to a point to where you really just don't give a shit, like you could really rot yourself out and it wouldn't fucking harm you, just like a fly wouldn't fucking harm you, then hey, do whatever it is you do. You got free reign. But until that point, you have to act with wisdom, a very dark kind of wisdom. This is why I suggest to you younger necromancers for motherfucking keeping up a spiritual routine, a meditation routine. Work on your pain control skills, work on your mind, work on your spirit, work on your body, that kind of thing. Because that very routine, the foundation, will save you in the long run when you come up against unexpected shit happening in your life. Maybe a loved one of yours suddenly falls sick and dies. That can really fucking destabilize you, especially if you have a strong heart chakra connection to them, you know? That kind of thing. So it's a matter of prevention. Proper prevention prevents poor performance. Say that again. Proper prevention prevents poor performance. You have to be wise about things. So with that being said, I'm going to conclude this video. Hopefully this provided some good information for you guys, gave you some ideas, all that good shit. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, subscribe. You know what I'm saying? Check out my Patreon. We're posting some new things there, some new services, videos, all that good shit. And until next time, peace out.